New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And good morning, dear ones. Dr. Robert with you here on a Saturday morning. It's 9 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone, and that means it is time for our Saturday morning Science of Mind and Spirit conversation series. I am not Reverend Victoria. We've had either a little mix-up or a little technical problems, and Reverend Victoria is not with us this morning. So you get me. And I'm still kind of... I wasn't totally prepared, so I'm not in the shirt I would prepare. I didn't do my hair. You just get me on a producer, what I look like when I'm producing. This is what I generally look like when I'm doing the production. So, good morning, Roy. It's good to see you, sir. Oh, well, thank you for that compliment. I appreciate that. Good to see you. Grateful you are here all the way from Fort Morgan. We got a Colorado crowd here today. If you're in the audience, please feel free to chat along, chime along, share your thoughts as we go. Feel free to ask questions, interact with us live. I love this, even when I'm not scheduled, even when I'm not prepared fully. And it's not to say I'm not prepared in overall, but just when I'm not fully prepared or anticipating this, it's always great to know that you're there and give a shout out. Let me know what's going on. Hey, huge shout out to my brother, Reverend Elzia Sekou, for his talk last week on In the Beginning, God. And this week we get to, and it was great. I got to watch that midweek. I didn't watch it on Saturday, but I watched it midweek. So great work there, my brother. I appreciate you doing that. And next week we're going to have Reverend Rodney Gittins all the way from Long Island, New York with us. So you can look forward to that. But today, look who else we've got here. We've got Shay from the Grand Plateau. It is a Colorado morning, at least three of us. Good morning, Maria from San Jose. Wonderful. Glad you are here. I know some great people in San Jose. So, but I won't try to sing the song, I promise. Good to be with you. Anyone else that's watching, feel free to chat in, chime along as we go along. So, okay. So today is all about, well, chapter 2. Hey, look at that. The East Coast is here too. All right, we've officially got 3 time zones that I know of, maybe more. Good morning, Reverend Celeste. Good to see you, dear one. Glad you're with us. Also, so appreciative of you. So, okay, it's the middle of February, and we're in chapter 2. Because, you know, we like to take our way and ease into this. You've got a cup of something today. I have my official... one of my official mugs. Very limited edition, very rare mug. I think there may be only 2 or 3 of those in existence. So we're on chapter 2 of the Science of Mind text. And as our video shows us, we use the Science of Mind textbook week by week. And through the first half of the year, we go through each chapter, chapter by chapter, and explore what we know about it, maybe some insights that come forward from it. And then later in the season, around about July, we run out of chapters in this book, and we turn and we focus our attention on the Science of Mind archives. So that'll happen later in the year. And again, ultimately, and maybe we do something a little different this year. I don't know, but because I've got this other book sitting here that I love getting into every once in a while. Do you have it? If it's got a copy of that, your Ernest Holmes Papers. It's a really good book. There's a lot of really good stuff in here. It's right there, as close as it's on my hot shelf, my shelf of hot books, the books I'm either reading or working with right now. All right. So Mind, the Greatest Discovery. This starts on page 71. And I want us to remember as we go into this chapter today, because those that watch this program regularly or watch me regularly, I'm doing my best to gender neutralize this text. And the tradition of the day, when much of this was written, was to use the term man as short for human. And the equality, we weren't fully up to speed on gender equality at that time. So and here's the thing, we can get trapped into thinking that Holmes wrote this book in a linear fashion, that he sat down and he wrote the first 4 chapters, and then he wrote chapter 1, and then he wrote chapter 2, and then he wrote chapter 3, and in a linear fashion. And that's not how it happened. Much of Holmes's work, especially this book, is a conglomeration, an amalgamation, if you will, of his work over time up to the point of its publication. And there are things in the earlier edition of The Science of Mind that aren't in this book. I didn't know there are 2 editions of The Science of Mind. The earlier edition, there are things in there that aren't in this edition. This is the most standard edition that most Science of Mind teachers or communities will use to teach from. And that's why it's referred to as the textbook often. My point in all that is some chapters are a little easier to read without the gender, with a gender neutral mindset. Some are a little more difficult to try to translate in the moment, but I'm going to do my best here today. And this is one of those chapters that is very heavy on the language of man in replace of human. And so we're going to see how this goes in what I read today. If you're with me, give me a shout out in the chat box, please. And right in the first sentence, nothing is more apparent than that the human, as we now appear, is the result of evolution. Boom. First statement, we are here because of evolution. So anybody that thinks that we're not evolving, and I don't think Holmes would agree with you. But in order to evolve, we had to have a principle from which to unfold. Since human is intelligent, we must have evolved from an intelligent cause. Okay, this makes sense. This follows. In studying the order of humanity's evolution, it seems certain that it was necessary from the time that we were brought to a point of self-choice. Okay, so in our evolution, we got to a point of self-choice. And from that point, we're left alone. Left alone to discover our true nature. If we are endowed with the attributes of self-choice and free will, we must be allowed to make this great discovery for ourselves. And this is an important part, because right now, today, there are people that cannot, do not, will not even attempt to talk about these topics. They're not going to get there, and we can't force them. must be left alone to discover the true nature. If we are endowed with the attributes of self-choice and free will, we must be allowed to make this great discovery for ourselves. Even God could not make a mechanical individual. Consider any of nature's forces. They must have existed always, but so far as we are concerned, they exist to be used only after we discovered them and learned how to make use of them. Everybody out there saying electricity? Everybody say electricity with me. Everybody say gravity. And Holmes even goes into it right there. Electricity was a reality in the universe when Moses led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but neither Moses nor any of his followers knew anything about it. This is true of all natural laws. They have always existed, but only when understood may they be used. What we're going to talk about this whole year, again and again and again and again and again, in every chapter in some way, is how we use the natural laws of evolution, of creation. And from Holmes's time, how we do that to take care of ourselves, how we do that to move ourselves forward, to lift ourselves up, whatever it might be. The principle of any science is invisible, theoretical, as is our idea of spirit. No one has ever seen God. No one has ever seen life. What we have seen is the manifestation of life. And he capitalizes that there. I'm on page 72 right now in the second paragraph. He capitalizes the use of life. So to him, that's the divine, or another word for God, in a way not to keep saying God, 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 God in his writing. The principle of any science is invisible, theoretical, as is our idea of spirit. No one has ever seen God. No one has ever seen life. What we have seen is the manifestation of life. No one has seen intelligence. We experience it. No one has seen causation. We see what it does. We deal with its effects. We do not see beauty. We are beauty. The artist feels beauty and depicts it as best they can, and the result of their efforts is what we call beautiful. Mathematician solves a problem, but the problem is not the principle of mathematics. The solution of the problem is an effect or a result of the application of the principle. We do not see life, we experience life. But causation is invisible. This is going to be important, so stay with us. These early chapters, there really is a lot more that I think need to be read and kind of, well, experienced. Listen to it, hear it. Not as much try to pick it apart. The first great discovery we made was we could think. This was the day when we said, I am. And right below that, here's one of our really deep point I want us to find. The basis from which human is evolving is infinite. Behind us is the great unknown, but not the great unknowable. The basis from which we are evolving is infinite. Now, for me, that would also imply that what is before us is infinite as well. So where we're headed to is unlimited and infinite, just as much as where we came from is unlimited and infinite. But behind us is the great unknown, but not the great unknowable. We have within us the power to know what it took to get here. We have the availability to know what came before this moment. Knowing what comes beyond this moment is another topic we're going to talk about. As a result of the discovery that we could think, plan, and execute, we have built up a great civilization. So through this, humans have built up a great civilization. We have perceived that nature works through us in order to work for us. Now, that's not nature like a rock or a twig or a pine cone. That is the nature of being, the nature of the divine, the nature of the universe, the nature of who we are works through us in order to work for us. Here's his examples. We harnessed electricity, compelled steam to do our bidding, conquered the air, built cities, made the desert bloom, and we've thrown lines of commerce around the globe and now communications around the globe. Indeed, we seem to possess the earth during this process, even though little attention has been given to that still small voice that says, know thyself. Many of you have heard me saying over the last couple of years, the science of mind, from my perspective, as we grow and mature, and in the early stages of our study of this book, it's about making sure we get our stuff in order, that we're healthy, that we're healed, that we understand how to use these principles, and that we use them. Not just on Sundays, not just on Wednesday nights, that we use these principles moment by moment by moment by moment throughout our day, throughout our week, and everything we do. And then who we are becomes the demonstration that supports and serves the organizations we're part of, the communities we belong to, the groups that we partake in. Collectively, that's how we create a world that works for all. Humans' discovery of their ability to think was taken as a matter of fact. We had always been able to think. It was proof that we existed. It gave us the ability to know our needs and how to supply them. It appeared to be an automatic thing. It came with us and would doubtlessly die when we died. The brain seemed to be the organ of thought, and of course, when death stilled the brain, it would no longer operate. So all he's saying is we come from a beginning as humanity. We come from a beginning where everything was centered in the brain. The brain dictated life. However, a day came when some wise man claimed that it is not the brain that does the thinking, for if the brain could think, it would keep on thinking when removed from the body. Yet without a brain, a human could not think, which proved that something behind the brain used it as an instrument. No, that used something. Something is using the brain as an instrument, as a way of revealing thoughts and ideas, as a way of recording thoughts and ideas and experiences. The human does not think. We do not think. So behind the brain, there must be a thinker. But where is the thinker? We do not see the thinker. Have we a right to say there even is a thinker? For the proof of this reality, yes. So we can say Holmes is saying, yes, we can say there is a thinker. For the proof of this reality is the evidence of our thought. Back of the organism is the thinker and the doer. That's our mind. This was always the greatest discovery of all time, for it meant that the body without the thinker could not function. I'm not going to argue that here. At first, human did not perceive this and thought only of their body as self-operating. But when we discovered this was not the case, we found that we could consciously think and decide, and that something happened to our thoughts after we think them. They went somewhere and then returned as a memory. It would appear there are plenty of people out there today that are not thinking. But it does not mean that they are incapable of thinking. But it does not mean that they are their thoughts either. At first, we did not perceive and thought only of our body as self-operating. But when we discovered this was not the case, we found we could consciously think and decide, and something happened to our thoughts after we think them. They go somewhere. Where do they go? We're going to get there. They go to our memory. Before we do, just want to check in with Roy. No one has seen God, yet some professing prophets claim they saw God and Jesus. I grew up Mormon. Joseph Smith, the founder, claimed exactly that. He saw God and Jesus on the right hand of God. Yes. Lots of people proclaim to speak to God, to have seen God, to hear God. And I think we do in a different way. And part of that for me is a change of definition, Roy. It's a change of definition from God as something we could see independent to recognizing that God is everything we see and nothing is truly independent. That everyone is necessary. And so we are constantly looking in the eyes and the face of God. And even in those expressions or experiences we don't understand. So memory. We're at the bottom, page 73, and seem to be just about on time. So memory. In our ponderings, human, came to the conclusion that memory was an active thing. And from that, reasoned that memory must be the storehouse of all ideas that have passed through my mind. Memory is active, for my thoughts come back to me. My thought is conscious of my body is operated upon my thought, and it must be operated upon by my memory, since memory is active. But since memory is the result of conscious thought, here we go. Memory of itself is an unconscious operation of what was once a conscious thought. You with me? You with Holmes? Memory itself is an unconscious operation, right? We don't sit down and think, I'm going to have a memory right now. We might sit down and say, I need to remember where I put my car keys, or I need to remember that phone number. Well, I have that phone. I need to remember this or that. But memory comes to us unconsciously, but it is an unconscious operation of what we already consciously thought. And this is one of the most important conclusions which the mind of human has ever made. By changing our thought, we could remold our affairs, and by right thinking, we could bring new conditions into our lives. And there's something very, very important in that statement. Right thinking. Right thinking. So you remember, we have this conscious choice, this free will, this ability to choose what we think. And there is a difference in Holmes between right thinking, and I don't want to call it wrong thinking, but we want to identify it. And I really love how many are presenting it currently, and that's that it's error thinking. It's an error. It's erroneous. It's an error in our thinking. So if we sit and we think that 2 + 3 equals 4, that's an error in our thinking. So we have to have right thinking. By changing our thought, we can remold our affairs. And by right thinking, we can bring new conditions into our life. Error thinking just creates more errors. And we're not bringing anything new. So science. Science is the knowledge, this is a definition. Science is the knowledge of facts based upon some proven principle. The scientific investigation of anything is of necessity a cold-blooded proposition. We speak about knowing, about science being absolute knowledge. Science is absolute knowledge insofar as the facts of science are demonstratable. Remember, we're reading the science of mind here. This is important, a pretty important part of how we approach this work and the rest of our year with this book. Science is the knowledge of facts based upon some proven principle. I think we can all nod our heads at that one. Yeah, it's easy to do. The scientific investigation is cold-blooded. Yes, exactly. We all were taught that in school. We don't let our emotions and our feelings get involved with the science. The science is the science. We speak about knowing about science. We speak about knowing, comma, and he's italicizing that because he wants us to start drawing a distinction. We speak about knowing about science being absolute knowledge. Science is absolute knowledge insofar as the facts of science are demonstratable. If they're not demonstratable, it's still a hypothesis. That's the scientific method. And we're going to use that throughout our exploration and throughout our own evolution of who we are. We're going to use this process of being able to come to the demonstration. And if we do not have a demonstration, somewhere there is an error in our thinking, and there is still another experiment to be done. Does not mean that our hypothesis is invalid. It just means that our process is invalid. And let's try again. In the scientific, how laws are discovered. This is also on 74. In the scientific discovery of laws, certain theories are postulated. Such theories may develop through research and investigation. When a theory proves to be correct after many experiments, then a principle is announced. In this way, scientific truth is demonstrated, but no one has ever seen the principles which science announces, as no one has ever seen the great cause which lies back of all the manifestations of life to begin with. As soon as a law is discovered, experiments are made with it, certain facts are proven to be true, and in this way, a science is gradually formulated. Any science consists of the number of known facts about its invisible principle. The number of known facts of its invisible principle. So what are the known facts? Well, the known facts, what are the known facts for you? Well, how have you proven to yourself that this works? Now, if you're a brand new student to this philosophy and you found this program and all of this is kind of like, whoa, hit me up with an email. We can have a private conversation and slow it down for you a little. But what I know is this audience on Saturday mornings, and looking at the names in the room, and the most of the people that are generally here on Saturday mornings, there's a little bit more. Many of us have studied this at least once or twice. We've read these passages. And so I'm moving fairly quickly because we want to touch on the highlights that help us deepen our understanding of this philosophy. And this is one of them. Any science consists of the number of known facts about its invisible principle. As more and more facts are gathered and proven, the science expands and generally becomes accepted by all and may be used by those who understand it. Over 100 years now, the science of mind, we have countless facts by countless people that prove this theory, these principles work. We have the evidence that proves this works. And in the words of Johnny Coleman, it works if you work it. And I think that's what he's saying here. The science expands and gradually becomes accepted by all. Just 2 years ago, New Thought was added to the roster of world religions, according to the Parliament of World Religions. And right now, a unity minister, a New Thought minister, sits in the chair position, in the seat on the board of the Parliament of World Religions. Reverend Dr. Charlene Manuel. Congratulations, dear one. New thought is recognized, and Science Mind is part of, is recognized and accepted by the Parliament of the World Religions. So it may be used by those that understand it. That's what we're here to do. Understand it so we can use it. So on 75, let us then approach the science of mind with awe, but not with fear. With a truly humble spirit, but not with any sense that we are unworthy, and certainly with no superstition. Let us approach it normally, happily, willing to accept it, glad to experiment with it, believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall derive this great good, a better understanding of the natural laws of life as they may apply to the individual and our relationship to the universal scheme of things. There we are. That's what we do. Create a better understanding of the natural laws of life as they apply to the individual and our relationship to the universal scheme of things. We can talk about how this is, again, early in the teaching and designed for people coming in the door as much as it is for advanced students. Because the better understandings of these laws of life, once applied to the individual, will then serve the evolution of organizations as well. But that's a later conversation. The science of mind, then, is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. The science of mind, the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought, the conception that we live in a spiritual universe that God is in, through, around, and for us. Never against us. My words, never against us. God is in, through, around, and for us. There is nothing supernatural beyond the natural. There is nothing supernatural anywhere on any plane that which today seems to us supernatural. After it is understood. All right, sorry, I messed up his cadence there. Excuse me. There is nothing supernatural anywhere on any plane, anywhere on any plane of existence. That which today seems to us to be supernatural, after it is understood, will be found spontaneously natural. Excuse me, I apologize for that. So what Holmes is saying is there's nothing beyond what is our nature. But the bottom of the next paragraph, the eternal principle is forever hidden. The only proof that we have of our mind is that we think. So what is it that we're thinking? On page 76, the bottom of the first paragraph, this is what Emerson would have us understand when he said, there is one mind common to all individual humans. Again, going to change the gender there a little bit. We must, whether you're a new student, whether you're a 20-year student, whether you're a 40-year student, whether you're a 5-year student. I've been in this movement over 20 years. First read this book in 2001. I first read this book in 2001. And I still, with every reading, can find something. Every time I read through a chapter or I share a principle or we use something in here, I am deepened because I have created another data point for myself. Okay, let's jump to the bottom of page 76. Images of thought, although they appear to arise from without, actually arise from the objective side of that which is part of a subjective within. Whew. Yeah. Angelica, excuse me. Reverend Angelica, thanks for being here. Yeah, after 40 years, and you're still here. And you're able to, and you would be able to share much of your own experiences and insights about this as well, because we go through it again and again. Okay, that which is outside of us. Sorry, where was I? Images of thought, although they appear to arise from without, actually arise from the objective side of that which is part of a subjective within. In order that nature may be objective, may be coherent and come into self-expression, there must be an objective, an object. Always, every time you see that word, think of something you can hold with your hands. A manifest world. But that which is physically outside of us still exists in the same medium in which we have our being. You live in the same medium as I do. And the intelligence by which we perceive it is the same intelligence that created it. Two fish swimming in an aquarium, in a tank. They're both living in the same medium. They're both individualized expressions, but they both perceive the same intelligence that created the medium. This thing called life for us humans. Over on 77, spirit is the medium through which I am conscious of myself, of others, and my environment. We become conscious. I want to make sure yeah. And I've heard this said so many times, and we're coming back to this. There was a time where I didn't hear this very often, and we're coming back to this. Consciousness is everything. And we must use that truth, I believe, to shift the conditions around us. All there is to it. We have to. Now is the time. Bottom of page 78. There is a law in the universe which operates in a certain way according to the tendency set in motion and does so mathematically. We cannot destroy the law. Again, capital L. And anytime you hear a religious scientist using the term law, we're talking about this creative law of the universe. There's a law in the universe which operates in a certain way according to the tendency set in motion and does so mathematically. We cannot destroy the law, but we can redirect its movement. Just as we plant seeds and later decide we wish something else, we go out and uproot the first seeds and plant others in their place. Gardening, seed, soil, plant, gardening is always a fabulous metaphor for what we're talking about. Holmes used it often. Just as we plant seeds and later we decide something else. So I plant tomatoes, but I realize I planted too many tomatoes and I need more peppers. I can go out and I can uproot the tomatoes I don't need. Yes, they will die, but I uproot them and plant others in their space. We're not hereby destroying the soil, the medium. We don't destroy the land, the soil. We have simply determined to use it in a different way. When we are dealing with subjectivity, we are always dealing with that which is subject to the conscious volition. Another big statement. Take that in, listen to it again. When we're dealing with subjectivity, we're always dealing with that which is subject to the conscious volition, the consciousness. Subjectivity, there's no subject without consciousness. The conscious volition in the universe is what is meant by the spirit or God. The mental medium, the universal subjectivity, the law, is the doer of the word. This is the principle which we use in practice. We should distinguish between conscious volition as spirit and the subjective law, which works with intelligence, but not self-conscious awareness. Where's my pen? Where's my pen? There's my pen. Let's put some notes in there. The conscious volition of the universe. It's a principle we use in practice. We should distinguish between conscious volition as spirit and the subjective law, which works with intelligence but not self-conscious awareness. When we realize this, we shall no longer be superstitious about our use of the law. It has been difficult to get away from such a superstitious reaction because of a theological rather than scientific approach to the subject. Holmes was always about, let's prove this. Not just spout it and teach it and share it, but let's prove it. The law we are discussing is simply a law of nature, a force of nature. It happens to be a mental force and an intelligence and a creative force, like electricity. And here he says, which will either light our house and cook our food, or could electrocute us if used incorrectly. There's that error thinking again, folks. We're dealing with universal laws. Error thinking can be deadly. Not just for the one thinking it. We find then, as we study our own being, we begin to deduce that the nature of God, or the universal being, is. There is God. There is no way we can know God except by studying ourselves. Someone may say, God reveals himself. Yes, we think God reveals itself to us, but only by revealing itself through us. I think that might help one of those earlier questions there, Roy. God and the law are one, Roy. I could even go so far as to say the law is God. We find that as we study our own being, we begin to deduce that the nature of the universe, of God, of the law, or the universal being, just is. There is no way we can know God except by studying ourselves. Someone may say God reveals himself. Yes, we think God reveals itself to us, but only by revealing itself through us. We know about God only as we judge what God must be, by studying the nature of those things which we have somewhat analyzed. Put that intuitive feeling, and so here it is. Yep. Very last sentence on 79 over to page 80. If we study the true nature of man, of human, then we shall have delved into the real nature of God, or first cause. We can also call it first cause. There's a great line by Holmes somewhere in here. I forget the exact place where he says that first cause is this. There is one self-existent cause, which would also be first cause, is forever taking on form in order to abandon that form and take on new form. First cause, God, even the law, is forever expanding and growing. So we have delved into the nature of God, or first cause, from which humanity springs. As we have found that human is threefold in our nature, we must deduce that God is threefold in its nature. That God is spirit, or self-knowingness. God is law and action. God is result and body. This is the inner teaching of the Trinity. God is self-knowing spirit, means the divine being who we have always thought of and believed in, the being to whom we have prayed and to whom we adored. God as law means the way in which spirit works, and law is in this sense would be the servant of the spirit. God as body means the manifestation of the spirit. And if we have it here, God as spirit in the top third, God as law in the middle third, and God as form in the bottom third. And that thing that looks like the letter V is not actually the letter V. It is the path of thought, the path of an idea, the path of our belief, from spirit through the law and into form. And then it goes back to reinform the law and back into spirit. That's another lecture too. This trinity of being appears to run through all nature and all of life. For instance, there is electricity, the way it works, and its result, which is light or power. The way it works and its result, there is the seed, the creative medium of the soil and the plant. Turn it any way, turn it as we may, we are confronted with the necessity of the trinity of being. Throughout the ages, this trinity has been taught. Every great religion and every great spiritual philosophy has taught this trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost is the Christian trinity. It is the thing, the way it works, and what it does. This thing is absolute intelligence. The way it works is absolute law. And what it does is the result, manifestation. The action of the thing itself is what the Bible calls the word, or absolute intelligence. And so through these 10 pages, Holmes comes to that conclusion that we are divine expressions of this oneness. And through the use of our teaching symbol, again, we can trace how we shape the outcome of our lives. This is where the phrase change your thinking, change your life comes to play. As we change, and Wayne Dyer took that and says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. We change our thinking. Is this a beneficial universe? Are people inherently good? Is there error thinking in the world? We have to change our thinking in order to change our experience. And sometimes, well, we don't get it right the first time. Sometimes the result, the demonstration, is not exactly what we anticipated or pictured. I know for many in the New Thought movement have, for years now, been loosing the thought that systems need to be changed, that some things might need to go away in order for new things to show up. Here in the United States, I do believe we are having an experience, a demonstration of many of those thoughts. Not exactly how we thought it would go, but we are seeing the crumbling, the destruction, the removal of systems. And we are seeing some things being burnt to the ground in order for new life to emerge. If it proves to have been an erroneous thought, it does not invalidate the principle. It just means we have to go back to the drawing board, create a new thought, and give that thought time to grow. And I can't think of a more imperative time than now, and a more powerful group of people than those that are already living the New Thought philosophy, that are already living the message of the science of mind, that are already living according to the principles taught in this book and plenty of others. We don't have the corner on truth, folks. But we do have, I believe, a moral imperative to speak that truth as best we know it. I do believe we have a moral imperative to live according to the principles of growth and happiness. I do believe we have a moral imperative to use the tools that we have in prayer, in visioning, in other ways to demonstrate the power of these principles. and to use them for good, for the betterment of humanity, not for just the betterment of myself. Matters not how much is in my bank account if my brother starves on the street. So there's where I'm at. The mind, the greatest discovery of all, because it is not the end all, but it can be used as the levers of change. I can use the mind to put the brakes on things and slow down. I can use the mind to hit the gas and speed up. It is our greatest discovery. Yes, Roy, we must look for the good. I know that and Roy sharing it in the chat, if you happen to be on Facebook and you're not able to see, it's scary. Should we look towards good emerging? This country is becoming dark to me. There's another piece in here somewhere that when Holmes shares with us that when things are the darkest or seem to be or appear to be, that is the supreme time to do this work. There is never a lack of light. And when things look dark, that is not because there is a lack of light. It just means we have to reflect the light a little more brightly. We have to be the light. We have to stand in truth. And for some, that may mean getting out and putting on a mask and holding up a sign and marching in the streets. For others, it might mean telling Google that you don't think that body of water should be called the Gulf of this, but should stay what it is. In others, it might be a more prayerful, contemplative consciousness work and silence if it's directed towards the evolution of human consciousness. Not if that silence and work is directed towards getting something. Now more than ever, we have to look to the light. If we don't do it, who's going to? New thought. We are a mighty movement. Not just the handful of people sitting here today. Not just the people that are in the church that you might attend or the center you might attend tomorrow. There are people that believe and understand this philosophy in all sectors of humanity right now, in all sectors of life, not just in churches, not just spiritual leaders, but business leaders, industry leaders, people in finance and Hollywood and all over the planet. There are people that understand this. And now, and I believe we are being called to stand up and be the light now more than ever. And sometimes that might mean getting a little loud and shouting somebody down. Sometimes it might mean putting someone in their place and letting them know that that's not how we behave and that's not nice to call people names. And I'm not going to put up with that. And through it all, we do it with a sense of love. Do it with a sense of love. Because while I may not believe what you say, while I may not understand what you say, while I may not be able to see it the way you see it, I will not stand for misinformation, misdirection, and attacking. I will not stand for violence in word or type. And I will push back with a loving heart. But we don't need to go there today. If anything, we've got somewhere to go. If you're a part of the Centers for Spiritual Living and you pay attention, there is a webinar that's starting in about 6 minutes with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I got a reservation and I need to get there. So if you're planning to attend that event, it's starting in just 5 minutes from now. We're going to go there. I'm going to sign off of here. I'm going to invite you there. You do have to register. I can't give you my Zoom link because then it wouldn't let me in. It only lets one person in per link. So you'll have to find your own link. But if you're on the CSL email newsletters, it'll be in there from this week. I'm Dr. Robert. I'm going to get out of here for now. Thanks for being with us. Please stay tuned in to what we're doing here at New Thought Media Network. If it's in your budget to share some of your financial good and support us in making sure we continue to provide this type of programming, please head on over to our website, ntmedia.org/donate. Drop a few bucks in the kitty and let us know you're a financial supporter. We want to thank you all again for being here. Reverend Angelica, thank you for being here. Leandra, I see you there. Roy, if you don't get the CSL newsletter, try to check out the csl.org website, and you may be able to sign up for it real quick. Again, unfortunately, I can't give you my link or it locks me out. So you have to register for it through their Zoom platform. And if it becomes available as a recording, I'll let you know. All right. I'm out of here, folks. I love you much. Until next time, I want to wish you peace and absolute richest blessings. Bye now.